Boating Hour is filled with news, information, and entertainment about sailing and boating. Each week, the Boating Hour will bring you the latest and greatest essential info about the high seas of Southern California. There'll be something for everyone, from land lovers to old salts. So tune into the Boating Hour with me, Captain Rick, every Saturday at 4 p.m., right here on AM 870, The Answer.
Help send care packs to our troops serving overseas for the holidays. Call 833, the number 2, and the word troops, or give online at am870.info.
AM 870, The Answer is the place for everyone's opinion.
This program is sponsored by Freedom Bound International.
In the hands of honest, patriotic people.
In support of the universal principles of truth, justice, and the eternal struggle for freedom for all people, this is the Global Freedom Report. You can be a part of the show by calling 866-870-5752. That's 866-870-KRLA. And now, the host of the Global Freedom Report, Brent Johnson.
They may take our lives, throw us in jail, steal our property, defame our character, but they cannot kill the truth. And for the next 2 hours, the truth is back in business. Freedom means never having to ask those people whom you have allowed to run your government for you for permission to do anything. That is the birthright of all Americans and all free people everywhere. On this show, I will help you to exercise your brain to think and come to your own conclusions rather than believe the propaganda and misinformation being disseminated by and on behalf of the United States government and the international globalists. This show is about truth, justice, and liberty. We'll also show you practical ways to live free in today's surveillance society and give you a good picture of how the globalist cancer is infecting the world and what you can do to stop it. Coming up on today's show, we will visit with Lord Christopher Monckton, who has been a major player in the debunking of climate change nonsense. He will also give us a current picture of the possible collapse of the British government. Then we will speak with the owner of the Idaho bar offering free beer to anyone who helps ICE capture and deport illegal invaders. Also, we will bring you another invaluable edition of Lessons in Liberty, where you learn really useful things they never taught you in public school. And we will embark on our weekly journey into the dirty world of mind control and behavioral manipulation on Propaganda 101. That's all coming up on today's edition of the show. You can join us right now in our live chat room at www.globalfreedomreport.us or call us toll-free from anywhere in the United States and Canada at 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752 to go on the air. And we are now offering you the ability to download our shows. The shows are up on archives. Go to globalfreedomreport.us and click on archives. You'll see the thumbnails for the shows. But now you can click on the brief text description of the show you want to download, and it will take you to where you can click on download MP3 file. So you can actually download it and save it to your device. Check it out at globalfreedomreport.us. We'll be right back with today's edition of the Global Freedom Report.
Fighting for your freedom. This
Is the Global Freedom Report.
We'll be right back.
What if you could live free from government regulation? What if you could learn how to lawfully opt out of taxes, eliminate personal liability, and travel in your vehicle without Big Brother watching over you? The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation, reveals the truth about the American legal system, the U.S. Constitution, and shows how to protect your God-given rights. The American Sovereign provides information critical to all people who value liberty. This 250-page full-size paperback will change the way you live and teach you how to reclaim control over your life. The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation, is available through Freedom Bound International. Call them toll-free at 888-385-3733. That's 888-385-FREE. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us. The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation is the #1 book on sovereignty in the world. Get your copy today.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. Our question for the week: the global war on drugs, which has been going on for decades at a cost of more than $1 trillion so far, does not seem to have reduced the number of users or availability of drugs. Do you believe drug use and possession should be illegal? That's our question of the week. When you're up for calling in, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. I'd love to know what you think about it. While the U.S. labor market defied expectations in September, adding 119,000 jobs according to delayed numbers, the unemployment rate rose to 4.4%, the highest level in 4 years. Normally, this would be the time for most employees to make sure they are the most valuable asset at a company, especially with layoffs surging and artificial intelligence slowly replacing entry-level jobs across various industries. Yet, Snowflake Generation Z workers don't seem to be getting the message. Instead of putting in long hours, many young workers remain convinced that work-life balance is their non-negotiable right, even as the ground shifts beneath their feet. Across industries, entry-level employees say they are not responding to emails after 5 p.m., they're staying out late on work nights or carving out weeknight pickleball time, behaviors that would have been unthinkable for young workers during earlier periods of economic softening. Managers say the detachment is coming at the exact moments younger employees most need to demonstrate grit, reliability, and value. Demarion Benton, a 24-year-old at an advertising firm in Los Angeles, checks in with his supervisors before logging off and makes clear he won't be working after hours. After 5, if I'm not by my laptop, I'm not by it, he said. I don't provide an explanation for it either. Nia Joseph, who works at a Houston ophthalmology practice, said she recently stayed out until 2 a.m. on a Sunday, even though she had to be at work before 8 a.m. on Monday. A few years ago, she said, she would have gone home early. It reminded me that I used to enjoy things a bit more, she said. Jessica Moran, a senior audit associate in New Jersey, said she made sure her manager understood that pickleball practice takes priority during certain weeknights. I was asking associates, senior associates, and managers questions to gauge their work-life balance and what it truly looked like, the 24-year-old Moran said. For me, that means there must be work-life balance here. The shared theme, Generation Z wants work to adapt to their lifestyle, not the other way around. Executives say the disconnect is widening just as the labor market shows unmistakable signs of cooling. Companies are slowing hiring, eliminating positions, and cautioning new employees that boundaries may be blurry. Historically, periods of economic uncertainty would prompt younger professionals to work harder to prove they could be counted on by their companies. Gen X, when times got tough, what do? We work harder. We dig in more. We push, said Marcy Merriman, founder of Ethos Innovation. Younger workers, she says, expect to be judged solely on output, not effort or availability. That attitude may have made sense during the pandemic era hiring boom, when job seekers had leverage. Today, employers say it looks like complacency. Part of the generational divide stems from the non-existent pandemic and the rise of remote work. Younger workers entered the workforce during a time when many employers emphasized mental health, flexibility, and boundaries. Many watched family members burn out in traditional jobs. Joseph said her parents' careers completely took over their lives, a pattern the self-styled entitled worker who is destined to be unemployed says that she refuses to repeat. Managers argue the pendulum has swung too far. In a stable job market, detachment may look like confidence. In a weakened one, it can look like a lack of commitment. Gallup data show younger workers are leading the drop in hours worked, nearly 2 hours fewer per week than before the non-existent pandemic. Older workers trimmed less than an hour. Jim Harter, Gallup's chief scientist for workplace management, said many younger employees are still feeling disconnected from their employers, despite signs of a tougher market. The stories of young workers reflect a belief that employers won't or can't penalize them for inflexibility. Yet the labor market is beginning to reward something Gen Z has been slower to embrace: resilience. Benton recalls the pressure he once placed on himself as an intern, logging on at 7 a.m., working through illness, and sometimes staying up past midnight. Now, he says he doesn't go out on his way to take on extra work. When a deadline overwhelmed him during his internship, his manager encouraged him to take a break and extended the deadline. Today, he takes paid time off freely and doesn't work about after-hours requests. Lazy people who think they are entitled to their jobs, like Benton and Joseph, see these boundaries as healthy. Executives see them as signals of a workforce unprepared for the demands of a more competitive job market. The question looming over the next cycle is whether Gen Z will adjust or whether employers will decide to prioritize workers who already have shown that they want to work hard. I will tell you my own view on this. I would not hire somebody whose attitude was, it's more important to me to play pickleball on Tuesday night than if there is an emergency at the office. If you tell me it's more important, that's fine. You're entitled to do that. But I'm not going to hire you because I'd rather hire somebody who wants to be with my company. I think let the snowflakes go broke and end up in the gutter, which is probably what's going to happen. What do you think? 866-870-KRLA is the toll-free number, 866-870-5752. Coming up, we're going to talk about what's going on in the United Kingdom. The British government is just about ready to fall apart. Can you believe it? Well, we're going to find out what a noble from England can tell us about what the real situation is going on in England. That's coming up on the Global Freedom Report after these upcoming messages. 866-870-KRLA. If you'd like to be part of the show, 866-870-5752. We'll be right back with more of the Global Freedom Report.
You're listening to the Global Freedom Report. We'll be right back.
DOJA, the Department of Government Accountability. This is our citizen-led watchdog task force under American-made action. We're exposing corruption in child welfare, family courts, and unconstitutional federal programs like Title 4E. the funding that is sifted straight down through the Health and Human Services Agency into the Social Security Administration and directly out to the agencies across 50 states that are responsible for the separation of children and families. And through lawful notices, federal lawsuits, and investigative media, DOJA is holding those rogue officials accountable, demanding transparency and restoring parental rights. We're not waiting for Congress. We're the people taking lawful action now. Visit AmericanMadeAction.org. Hit the Take Action button and join the reckoning.
In a Congress of politicians, the liars speak today. On a stage of preset conditions, the liars speak today.
Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. Now, okay, I sincerely hope that we have no technical problems getting through overseas. The Viscount Lord Christopher Monckton of Brenchley, an advisor to Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, has had some 24 peer-reviewed papers on climate published in learned journals. He gives powerful, informative, and entertaining speeches, lectures, parliamentary presentations, and physics faculty seminars on climate change all over the world. Lord Monckton has advised several governments and intelligence services on the climate question. He has testified twice before the Bundestag, twice before the European Union Parliament, and 4 times before the U.S. Congress. 1 week after a memorandum by him to Donald Trump, requested by his then chief of staff, the president took the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement. The 4-minute peroration of his 90-minute speech on climate change at Bethel University, St. Paul, Minnesota in October 2009 was posted by a member of the audience on YouTube, where it received 5 million hits, achieving platinum on YouTube faster than any other speech ever. His team's paper results from an irreducibly simple climate model published in 2015 in the Science Bulletin of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, has been downloaded more often than any other paper in history. He holds the Mies Nobel Award for Freedom, the CFACT Valiant for Truth Award, and the Intelligence Medal of the Army of Colombia for his climate research. He leads a team of 10 scientists, 3 of them professors, the former director of the United States Global Climate Change Program, who are researching the major errors of physics that led to the erroneous notion that global warming is dangerous to mankind. Now, I hope you are there and you have heard this introduction. Viscount Lord Christopher Monckton, it is my sincere honor and privilege to welcome you to the Global Freedom Report. Are you there with me? He is not connected. All right. We'll talk about what we're going to discuss on this. In the meantime, Lee, I would call his phone number directly. That's what I would suggest Lee do at this point. I will tell you this, that in addition to the climate phenomena or phenomenon of which he is so well spoken, he's quite aware of the attacks that have been happening on free speech in the United Kingdom, and it's absolutely horrible. Recently, due to an arbitrary property tax that was imposed on farmers, this tax would literally have bankrupted all family farms, and there are a lot of them, just bankrupted them completely. And this was simply so that Prime Minister Starmer could raise money by taking it from people. The farmers were so upset, and from the farmers' perspective, it had crossed a line in the sand. And in that line in the sand, they took to the streets, and thousands of tractors driven by these farmers came into central London in the government sector and blockaded all the government buildings. Nobody could get in, nobody could get out. And the farmers basically said that Starmer has to resign. Rachel Reeves, the parliamentarian who was very much in favor of bankrupting the farms, the family farms, she must resign. And the so-called law has to be completely repealed. And they said if they don't do that, they will bankrupt, or not bankrupt, they will starve the population. That's what the farmers said. That's how bad it has begun. Lord Monckton's going to be able to shed some light on what, if any, progress has been made along those lines. And then okay, and then apparently there is now a conflict between the Prime Minister and the royal family, and this is a piece of work. Apparently, Prince William, who is the heir to the throne, privately asked a bunch of military leaders what they thought of the idea that illegal immigrants are being put up in five-star hotels at the cost of British taxpayers, while British military veterans are homeless and out on the streets. And he basically just asked them, what do you think about that situation? Well, the fact that he asked them got to Prime Minister Starmer, who in turn threatened the military. I'm telling you, it is getting really, really crazy over in England. And I am hopeful that Lord Monckton will be able to help us unravel the crazy knot that is going on in the United Kingdom. Again, I want to ask you our question for the week. The global war on drugs, which has been going on for decades at a cost of more than $1 trillion so far, does not seem to have reduced the number of users or availability of drugs. Do you believe drug use and possession should be illegal? And I understand we now have Lord Monckton. Lord Monckton, I'm so glad that you got through to us. These days, technology is so questionable. How are you?
I'm not so bad. I'm just going to try and increase the volume a bit. I can hardly hear you. Wait a minute. Okay. Try again.
All right.
I can just about hear you.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. That's always a challenge these days, technology, which is supposed to make our lives better, if it works, which most of the time it doesn't
that's
seem
the trouble.
to work.
It's all got so complicated. In the old days, it used to work automatically. Now it's hard work. Anyway, here we are.
Excellent. Well, we're here in time just about to take our first break. So we're going to take a break. Okay. As soon as we come back, this is a hard break. As soon as we come back from this break, I'm going to forego the other breaks. So we'll run straight through to the top of the hour. But we do have to take this break. This is one I cannot control. So, folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Lord Christopher Monckton will join us to discuss what is happening in the United Kingdom. This is the Global Freedom Report. We will be right back after these words.
This is where the truth matters. The Global Freedom Report. Don't go away. Brent will return in a moment.
A common law pure trust organization is the most powerful asset protection device available. Pure trusts have been around in the USA since 1790, when Patriot Patrick Henry created the first one. Pure Trusts establish ironclad protection for real property, vehicles, businesses, and just about anything else. A Pure Trust creates a wall of privacy over its assets, reduces personal liability, and protects property from attachment. Freedom Bound International has been creating Pure Trusts for over 35 years, and none of their trusts have ever been successfully attacked. Call today at 888-385-FREE. That number again is 888-385-3733. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us for information and applications for their Pure Trusts. Freedom Bound International, dedicated to the preservation of personal freedom, privacy rights, and the principles enshrined in the Declaration of Independence.
The Answer. Breaking news.
Cleanup efforts continue across Southern California as officials report additional details on storm damage. National Weather Service confirmed the EF0 tornado that touched down in Boyle Heights this week. The tornado carved a path about a quarter mile with winds estimated between 65 and 85 miles an hour. Roofs, businesses, and vehicles were damaged during the storm, and several traffic accidents were reported. I'm Reno on The Answer with breaking news and talk you can trust.
Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, launching a new project, or just looking for that extra edge, your brain is your most valuable asset. Now there's a way to support it every single day, Think Factor. From the makers of Relief Factor, Think Factor is built to help you stay sharp, nurture your memory, boost your attention. It unlocks the mental clarity and precision you need to stay ahead of the game, no matter the challenge. After a couple of weeks of taking Think Factor, I noticed a dramatic difference in my clarity, my focus, even my memory. And look, the longer you take Think Factor, the better it works. This is not a one-off. You want to take Think Factor regularly. If you're a go-getter who refuses to settle, Think Factor can help you perform at your best and keep your edge. Call 800-4RELIEF. That's 800-4RELIEF, or just visit relieffactor.com to order Think Factor. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Your first bottle is just $19.95. Think Factor. Think clearer, perform better daily with Think Factor.
82 million Americans rely on AM radio for news, sports, talk, and emergency alerts. But unless Congress acts now, AM could disappear from new cars. Tell lawmakers AM radio matters to you. Text AM to 39179 and urge Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act before it's too late.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman with United American Mortgage and host of The Main Event. Heard weekends right here on AM 870 The Answer. Well, it looks like the Federal Reserve is going to hold off as long as they possibly can before they cut interest rates. But you still have to survive these next 12 months and keep your bills paid before that happens, and hopefully still have enough money left over to eat. So if you're wondering if there's any solution for reducing your financial stress, call me and I'll show you all of your options. Whether that's a refinance or a home equity line, or if you're over 62, maybe a reverse mortgage is the solution. We even have a reverse mortgage second that allows you to pay off all your debts without having any payments at all. For more information, call me toll-free at 855-640-2020. That's 855-640-2020, or go to edhoffman.net and click on the Team Ed Hoffman logo.
Ed Hoffman, NMLS ID number 9921. United American Mortgage Corporation, NMLS ID number 1942. United American Mortgage Corporation is an equal housing lender and licensed by the California Department of Real Estate.
The swamp is draining, dead people aren't voting, and girls can play sports with biological girls again. America's position for 4 years of sanity and economic prosperity. What are you doing to make your business great again? Hi, my name is Anna, and I help small, mid, and large-sized businesses smash their revenue goals. Want to advertise on our airways? I got you. Want to try smart TV ads? I got you. Digital marketing has your head spinning? I got you. But don't take my word for it. Hear what my clients have to say.
Anna did a great job communicating my business concept clearly. It helped me seal the deal with my biggest client to date, and my YouTube views tripled.
Marketing works when it's done right. Call me for a free consultation. 818-662-3791. 818-662-3791. That's 818-662-3791, or email anna@salemla.com. Let's make your business great again.
AM 870, The Answer is everywhere. On the air in SoCal at AM 870 on your AM 870 smartphone app.
The advantage of modern technology.
And now on Amazon and Google Home speakers. Just ask for AM 870, The Answer.
Are you listening?
Excuse me, sir. Yes, what is it? More people are listening to the Global Freedom Report with Brent Johnson. Oh, no, that means people are thinking again. Oh, crap.
They need only to give up the idea of forcing us to acquiesce to their groups and theories, their socialized projects, their free credit banks, their Greco-Roman concept of morality, and their commercial regulations. I ask only that we be permitted to decide upon these plans for ourselves, that we not be forced to accept them, directly or indirectly, if we find them to be contrary to our best interests or repugnant to our consciences.
They're watching my house and they're tapping my telephone. I don't trust nobody, but I'm much too scared to be on my own. And the income tax collector has got his beady eyes on me.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. My guest is Lord Christopher Monckton. Lord Monckton, welcome to the show. You are one of the most credible individuals I know of with respect to the truth about the so-called crisis of climate change that has bombarded the world for decades. However, numerous organizations that have long been involved in promoting the idea that humans are causing the Earth's climate to become a threat to their very existence have stepped back and retreated from their original mandates and are now admitting that climate change really is not the threat they said it was. Have we finally crossed a line in which sanity is returning to this discussion? What is the current state of the climate change agenda and the efforts of some to demand that mankind must change its behavior in order to prevent planetary climates from destroying the Earth?
Right. First things first. Only 10% of the world's nations are even trying to reduce their emissions. And those 10% are all Western countries. China is vastly increasing its emissions and now emits more even per head, as well as in total, than any other nation. India is increasing its emissions by 60%, Pakistan by 300%. Russia has not even bothered to build anything as far as windmills and solar panels go, because there's simply no point. So the communist-led or communist-influenced large nations of the earth are significantly increasing their emissions, while their agents of influence in the West are busy saying that the West must shut down its economies in the name of saving the planet from what is now known to be the non-existent threat of man-made global warming. So let's hit that straight out of the park. This is effectively a communist-led attack on the Western economies, supported by the totalitarian factions in the West, such as the communists here who call themselves the Labour Party, and the communists in the United States who call themselves Democrats. Of course, they're not Democrats at all, nor are they liberals. They're anti-democratic and illiberal. But it is they who are promoting this nonsense because they hate the West and they want to give advantage to the communist-led dictatorships. So one needs to understand that there is so little rationality behind this global warming meme that anyone with half a brain can see it wouldn't work. And let me throw out just a few very quick, punchy figures. First of all, even if the whole world, rather than just a few Western countries, actually went in a straight line from their current sins of emission to zero emissions in net terms by 2050, the UN's target date, how much cooler would the world be than if we carried on our present trajectory? The answer is 0.1 Celsius degrees, even if the whole world went to nut zero, as it's called here. And how much would that cost? Well, pro rata, based on the cost of just net zeroizing the UK electricity grid, which is one of the very few realistic figures for what this would cost that we've got, produced by the Grid Authority itself a few years ago. The grid, which represents 0.2% of global emissions, would cost $15.2 trillion to net zeroize by 2050. So the global cost pro rata would be coming up to $2 quadrillion, and that's 20 years global GDP. But it can't be done anyway, because you would hardly spend 20 years global GDP in the next 25 years just on trying to make non-existent global warming go away. That would be a waste of money anyway. But the fact is, it can't be done anyway because there aren't enough of the rare techno metals to allow this to happen. You see, to have windmills and solar panels and electric buggies rather than real cars and proper coal-fired power stations, you've got to have all these fancy metals like lithium, where you would need something like 10,000 years worth of the entire current annual global production of lithium in order just to get to one 15-year generation of net zero energy infrastructure. So that's not going to work. And you'd need 67,000 years worth of the current annual production of vanadium. And there's a lot of other metals like that. So it can't be done anyway. And at the moment, we are sacrificing our economies and putting ourselves at a colossal terms of trade disadvantage against the rest of the world. In Britain, for instance, we now have the most expensive domestic as well as industrial electricity in the world because purely of this net zero nonsense. And our economy is collapsing. Our manufacturing industry in the country which birthed the Industrial Revolution is collapsing, and soon there will be no jobs for anyone and nobody will make anything in Britain because they can't afford to turn the machines on.
Well, and there are several things going on in Britain I'd like to bring up and get your opinion on. Recently, a man from Bournemouth, England, was imprisoned for 18 months because he posted on social media a statement that he thought migrant centers should be burned down. Muslims should be made to leave the country, and British taxpayers should not be forced to pay for these so-called refugees, many of whom have committed violent crimes against British people, so that they could remain in the UK. Now, his posts were viewed a grand total of 33 times. The result, he is imprisoned for a year and a half. My question, what has happened to British respect for free speech? It seems as if it is now a crime for anyone to be offended by anything. Whatever offends someone is treated as hate speech and criminalized. What can you tell us about this attack?
The courts in this country have been captured by the totalitarian faction. They are effectively communist courts. And if you speak out against any part of the Communist Party line, then you will go to jail, and you'll go to jail for a long time. For instance, there have been several cases, not just one, but several cases of one of them was a veteran, another was a lady, and they went and stood outside different baby butchering abattoirs. We have a lot of those in Britain, killing babies. And they prayed silently. They didn't interfere with anyone. They didn't get in anybody's way. They didn't say anything publicly. They just prayed silently. If you pray silently within 200 yards of a baby butchering abattoir in this country, you will go to jail for 2 years, or you will pay between $10,000 and $20,000. In fact, $25,000 in one recent case, just because you were saying a private, silent prayer, or you were merely thought to have been doing so. And a ludicrous case in Scotland, in Glasgow, where a woman was saying a prayer in her own home, and a communist goon looked in through her window, saw her kneeling down and praying quietly to herself, But because her house happened to be within 200 yards of a baby butchering abattoir, he reported her to the police, and she was also prosecuted for praying within the exclusion zone of a baby butchering abattoir. That is how far we have gone. But it's getting worse because the communists, both here and worldwide, are now making common cause with other totalitarian factions, of which the most prominent is the Islamist faction, which, if anything, is even more extreme than the communists at its far end. And so it will soon be unlawful for anyone to raise any questions about Islam in this country. You won't be allowed to say, for instance, that there was no Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century, there was no Quran in the 7th century, there was no Mecca in the early 7th century. None of these things actually existed at the time when the official Islamic narrative said that Muhammad walked the earth. Well, was there a warlord of that name? Did he engage in 83 mostly attacking battles? Yes. But was he a religious leader? No. Did he hear from the Archangel Gabriel and get it written down by his companions? No, because none of his named companions existed in the early 7th century either.
Well,
so the whole story is entire fiction. And I'm saying it now because in a few weeks' time, I will not be allowed to say any of this without going to jail for a very, very long time.
Now, maybe I'm showing my naivete and I'm willing to accept that, but there are a lot of people in the House of Lords. There's not just 2 or 3. There's what, how many hundreds?
There are about 800 at the moment.
Okay.
The trouble is that
out of those people, I can't believe that every one of them is agreeing that it's okay to do this. Aren't there people
the trouble is,
who feel... Yeah, go ahead.
If you remember the beginning of Nazism between 1933 and 1939, and the first thing that the Nazis did the moment they had staged their coup and Hitler became Reichskanzler, Chancellor of the Reich, was to get control of the press and suppress all dissent. That is now happening vigorously and increasingly in this country, just as it did in Nazi Germany. And the goons, acting on behalf of the communists and Islamists, are busy silencing us. I'll give you an example. I was due to make a broadcast at a studio in North London the other day, and the guy who owned the studio was a Muslim. And when some of his Muslim fellows heard that I was going to be on, they told him that I must be banned because I had raised questions about Muslims, for instance, the Quran, saying that if you apostatize from Islam, if you leave the faith having joined it, then you are to be killed. And I pointed this out in public. And this is now something you're not allowed to say. It's in the Quran, but if anyone says it, then in future they'll go to jail for that. So it's, of course, most people in the House of Lords wouldn't have any truck with this, but most people in the House of Lords wouldn't have the courage even to say as much as I have said. And let me balance it a little, because when I was studying the origins of science and mathematics and logic at Cambridge as part of my classical course, one of the things that I studied was the scientific method. And the best expression of that was by a Muslim from the 11th century called Al-Haytham, who said that the seeker after truth, that was his description of the scientist, should be questioning anything that he's told, which brings us back to the climate change thing. Not enough people are questioning that. So I have much admiration for the Islamic period of scholarship between the 9th and the 11th centuries. But the current presentation of Islam is vicious, it's red in tooth and claw, and it is dangerous. And at present, and this is breaking news because this has not been published anywhere in the world yet, I recently received figures which suggests that the official figures for the number of Muslims now in Britain are grossly understated, and that now more than 1/4 of the entire British population is Muslim. And so within another 10 or 15 years, the majority of the population will be Muslim because they're pouring in through every port. Very nearly all of the immigrants who are coming in are Muslim immigrants. This is a huge change which was not sought by the British people. We've been gentle and tolerant, and perhaps too much so. And so people are speaking out during these last few weeks while still we may, because soon Britain will fall altogether silent, just as Nazi Germany did.
Okay, let me touch on this now. Recently, Prime Minister Starmer invoked a requirement that farmers must pay exorbitant amounts of money in taxes to the government, enough to bankrupt the vast majority of private family farms. Apparently, enough farmers took this as the last straw. They came together in London with thousands of tractors, blockading government buildings, causing traffic to shut down completely. From what I hear, government workers could neither enter nor leave government buildings. Police could do nothing about it. This grassroots civil disobedient movement has demanded that Prime Minister Starmer resign, MP Rachel Reeves resign, and the so-called law imposing these taxes be repealed. They have threatened to starve the British people if their demands are not met. Can you comment on this situation and how, if it has developed at all?
This is part of the communist takeover of this country. Effectively, what Starmer was trying to do was to nationalize farmland. Now, farmland per acre is very valuable in this tiny island, which means that the farmers who farm it are asset rich but cash poor, and the rate of return on what their land is worth is very small if you just farm it, which is what they do to make sure that we get kept fed. And therefore, it is understood by anybody with half a brain that if you try to levy an inheritance tax on farmland, you're going to crush the farmers. That is exactly the intention of the legislation passed in the most recent budget. However, as a result of the farmers protesting, Starmer has retreated partially. And he's now said that if your farm is worth less than, I think it's about 2 million sterling, then maybe you won't have to pay the tax. But that's still going to cripple more than 2/3 of all the farms in Britain. So it is a very sad state of affairs here. We're not talking of a mildly left-wing government. We're talking of an out-and-out communist regime, which is hell-bent on destroying the British economy by every means that it can. And if listeners are in the United States and hearing this, they must think, who is this potty peer who is saying these really extreme things? Fact is, all of this is true. It is their intention to destroy the British economy. The first thing that Rachel Reeves did as her finance minister here, treasury minister, was to impose so large a tax on the non-doms that meant that everybody who wanted to run a business would run it from the UK, from all over the world, because they didn't pay tax while they were here. And she drove them all out, not realizing that they were paying quite a lot of tax while they were here, not quite the high rate of tax we'd pay, but they still were paying quite a lot. And so she has lost tens of billions of dollars. But it's not as though the Treasury or she didn't know that the taxation of the rich is an internationally competitive business, and if you overtax them, you drive them overseas, you lose revenue, and therefore the poor have to make up the difference. They know this, and still they did that. That shows how deliberate their intention to destroy the British economy is.
I think your point is well made. Now, I mentioned to you before in my recent email, we're going to run out of time. We've probably got about 5 more minutes left for today. So I would like to bring you back in a few weeks where we can have a more extensive discussion about all these. But there is one thing I think
there'll be a lot to say.
Yeah, there really is. And I'm up against the clock. There's nothing I can do about that. But this is really important, and I need to hear what you have to say about it. The United Kingdom has always shown a great deal of respect for its military veterans. Recently, it leaked out that Prince William asked military leaders what they thought about the fact that foreign migrants are being housed in five-star hotels while British veterans are homeless and on the streets. PM Starmer responded when he found out about it by threatening the heir to the throne, calling Prince William, quote, a brat, and telling the prince that if he wants to get involved in politics, then he, Starmer, will show the prince where the power really rests. Would you comment on this? How long will England put up with this kind of garbage coming out of 10 Downing Street?
Well, the fact is that Prince William was asking a legitimate question. He wasn't making a political point. And Starmer, who isn't very bright, didn't realize that if you ask somebody a question, you are not making a point. You are seeking information. And the monarchy has always done that. Wherever they go, they will ask pertinent questions. And that's what they're supposed to do. If you read Bagehot, whose great work on the monarchy describes its role, it is to, a constitutional monarchy, is to advise, to encourage, and to warn. And in order to do those three, you have to listen first. So all that Prince William was doing, and he's very popular here, was listening. And Starmer, by taking him on, has made himself even more unpopular, and he's now by a very large margin the least popular prime minister in the history of this country, which is saying quite a lot given some of the creeps that have held this position before. And so the electorate will be dealing with Starmer very firmly at the next election, if there is one, because already the communists have cancelled local elections that were due to happen next May in several boroughs where they knew they would lose to Nigel Farage's Reform Party, which among others I support. And so far it has not been possible to overthrow this refusal by Starmer to hold elections where he knows he's going to lose. This is a very fundamental attack on democracy. It's virtually gone unreported in most of the British media. But the danger now is that he will manufacture some emergency as the next general election in 2029 comes on the horizon and say that we'll have to cancel the elections. And he is the sort of person that would do that without blinking, because when he was a lad, he spent 2 weeks in what was then communist-run Czech Republic on a communist boot camp. We're dealing with people who are actual communists. So when you hear me use the word communist, you think I'm being extreme. No, I'm not.
No, I don't. But aren't there enough people in Parliament to do a no confidence vote and kick him out now? I just don't get it.
At the moment, the answer is no, because Starmer has an enormous majority, because the Reform Party, which had just begun to grow before the last election, split the vote with the Conservative Party, with the result the Conservatives were reduced to a tiny handful of seats. Reform only got 5 seats. And so all the various left-wing parties are enough to keep Labour in office more or less indefinitely. That's the problem. The totalitarians have banded together. You have the Greens, who are more communist than any of the others. You have an enormous Islamist faction now beginning to be represented in Parliament. You have the so-called liberal, so-called Democrats, who are neither. You have the Scottish and Welsh nationalists, who are effectively international socialists, in other words, communists. All of those will support the Labour Party rather than have a reform Tory coalition taking over and bringing some sort of sanity to Britain once again.
Okay, I need to first. I need to conclude this because we're about to run into our top of the hour hard break. But I would, as soon as we're done in the next couple of days, I'll be in touch with you. We will schedule a full 2 hours where nobody else can interfere, and we have as much time as possible to really, really go through all of this. I will also
think that
give
would
out.
Be well worth doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I so appreciate your being with us. And I will put out the information about the Heartland Institute, and we'll talk more about that when I bring you back. My guest has been Lord Christopher Monckton. There's a lot of problems in Britain. We'll continue discussing it with him in a few weeks. Thank you so much, Lord Monckton. God bless you. We'll be right back with hour number 2.
God bless America.
Thank you. We'll be right back after these words.
More about freedom and your phone calls right after this.
The holidays are behind us and the new year lies ahead. Here's to a very happy, healthy, successful, and prosperous 2026.
As 2025 comes to an end, we hope you'll take time to remember our troops serving overseas who aren't home for the holidays.
They're generally young men and women in far places around the globe.
It's really important to not forget and to help those people who are a little bit forgotten.
As you consider your year-end giving and reflect on the past, please help send care packages to our troops overseas through Troopathon. The care packs are ready to go, packed full of all sorts of goodies and treats, but we can't send any without your help. $50, $100, $250, $500, or $1,000. And don't forget the Morning Answer Pack for $5,000.
Come in studio, you watch an hour of the program, we'll chat, you get to have breakfast with us afterwards.
The Larry Elder Pack for $10,000. You get to have a meal with Larry and hear an hour of his show in studio. Or my pack, the Larry Marino Pack for $2,500 and a lunch.
The thing that really touches them is those little notes from people at home. Some perfect stranger is writing them a note telling them that they're in their prayers, they care about them, they love them.
And then instantly that sense of being alone was gone. It was an emotional roller coaster. And so I'm unabashedly going to announce to the world, I bawled my eyes out. And Marines aren't supposed to do that, but I surely did.
Call 833, the number 2 and the word troops. 833, the number 2 and the word troops, or am870.info.
If you're at all thinking about doing it, don't worry about the timing. Just do it right now. But when that box arrives, it's Christmas that morning. That is the impact that you're making. You're giving these troops the thank yous, the love the support that they need.
Hurry, our campaign ends soon. Call now, 833, the number 2 and the word troops, or give online at am870.info. Thank you.
AM 870, The Answer. Find us at am870theanswer.com. Download our apps, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv.
With SRN News, I'm Mary Rose. President Trump is hosting Ukraine President Zelensky Sunday at his Florida resort as part of efforts to broker an agreement that could bring an end to nearly years of fighting between Ukraine and Russia. And the president says Vladimir Putin has not yet agreed, though, to a ceasefire.
But I think we're finding ways that we can get around that. But I understand President Putin from that standpoint. You know, you have to understand the other side. And, you know, I'm on the side of peace. I'm on the side of stopping the war. So, but I think that's a problem that's going to get solved, yeah.
A powerful winter storm driven by a rapidly intensifying cyclone was sweeping east from the plains Sunday, bringing heavy snow, ice, rain, and severe weather expected to affect much of the country. Forecasters warned of a possible blizzard conditions and whiteouts in the upper Midwest. This is SRN News.
Looking for something new? Try fencing, the Olympic and Paralympic sport that mixes speed, strategy, and fun. It's like chess meets cardio. Quick feet, quick decisions, and a satisfying beat when you score a point. Kids, teens, and adults can start anytime. No experience needed, and many clubs have loaner gear. Coaches teach fundamentals and safety from day one. Find a beginner class near you at usafencing.org/tryfencing. That's usafencing.org/tryfencing.
Picture this, you're on a date, and then bad breath happens. Confidence gone. Here's the truth. Most gums and mints are just bad breath Band-Aids, but not Zellman's Minty Mouth. The functional breath freshener you swallow. Tiny dual-action capsules with mint on the outside, parsley seed oil inside, clinically tested to fight the toughest offenders, even garlic and onions. It's only available online. Go to Zellmans.com, Zelmins, Zellmans.com, code FRESH for 15% off.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood.
Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
10 athletes will face the toughest job interview in fitness that will push past physical and mental breaking points. You are the fittest of the fit. Only one of you will leave here with an iFit contract for $250,000.
This is when mindset comes in.
Someone will be eliminated.
Pressure is coming down.
Trainer Games on Prime Video January 8th. Watch the trailer on trainergames.com.
AM 870, The Answer is everywhere. On the air in SoCal at AM 870 on your AM 870 smartphone app.
The advantage of modern technology.
And now on Amazon and Google Home speakers. Just ask for AM 870, The Answer.
Are you listening?
AM 870, The Answer.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. If you'd like to be part of the show, the toll-free number is 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. Now, we are now offering you the ability to download our shows as MP3 files. If you go to www.globalfreedomreport.us and you click on archives, you will see thumbnails for each of our past shows. It shows the date that the show aired, the topic, the names of the guests. And if you click on that text that is right beneath each of the thumbnails for the archives, if you click on that text, it will take you to a window where you now can download as an MP3 file the show. So if you actually want to get a copy of it, have it on your device, play it in your car, or share it with others, you can now go ahead and do that. We're very happy to be able to provide that to you. Our question for this week: the global war on drugs, which has been going on for decades at a cost of more than $1 trillion so far, does not seem to have reduced the number of users or the availability of drugs. Do you believe drug use and possession should be legal? 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. Mark Fitzpatrick is a devoted follower of Christ, husband of 23 years to his beautiful wife, and father of 6. A retired police officer turned serial entrepreneur, Mark has made his impression in marketing, real estate sales, development, and hospitality as the owner of a wedding venue and the Old State Saloon in Eagle, Idaho. Known for his unapologetic truth-speaking, he founded Heterosexual Awesomeness Inc. and sparked a movement with Heterosexual Awesomeness Month at his saloon. Mark is the visionary behind the upcoming Heterosexual Awesomeness Fest, set for June 20th, 21st in downtown Boise, celebrating faith, family, and traditional values. Mark Fitzpatrick, I'd like to welcome you to the Global Freedom Report. It's so good to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to join you.
Oh.
That part of that's a little bit old. I think the end there was actually talking about last year's June event that we had last year. But
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, okay. Because, I got that from your site, and I thought it was this coming June. I was going to ask you about that. I guess I won't do that now. But I will ask you about
I don't know.
the general. I'm going to ask you about that general thing. But first and foremost, okay, you own and run a small bar in Eagle, Idaho called the Old State Saloon. You have entered the dubious world of political incorrectness by promoting and recognizing Heterosexual Awesomeness Month. Which month qualifies for this designation? What takes place during that time? And how did you come to create such an event?
Well, it actually started in just before June of 24. And my family, we were trying to figure out what are we going to do for our daughter's birthday. And we said, let's steer clear of downtown Boise because things get very gay during that time of year. And it's just not something that I want to be a part of or have my family a part of. And I thought, man, what could we do, at Old State Saloon that would be something, different that honors God's creation, God's design for sexuality. And I thought, man, that's between a man and a woman, and God designed that, and it's pretty awesome. So Heterosexual Awesomeness Month was born. The idea, several people said, I wouldn't do that if I were you. But we went ahead and did it anyways. And it really caused quite the reaction, both positive and negative from folks.
So tell me a little bit about both. Tell me about the positive reactions and tell me about the negative reactions.
Well, yeah, the negative people, their initial response was online. And then we had a local paper cover the story. Not that they're a paper, that's just, old school term for online news outlet, a liberal online news outlet, the Idaho Statesman. They covered the story, and in their opinion, they called me a bigot. And that pretty much erupted all of the people who have morals in the world that got behind me. So it divided up pretty quickly. The left, which I came to find out that the Pride movement, the LGBTQ folks, have a very, very dark side of their movement, probably the more extreme folks. And they relentlessly attacked me, demanding that I stop doing it. And I said no. And then they said, well, if you're going to keep doing it, you better celebrate all of the sexualities. And I said, no, I'm just going to celebrate the one that God designed at Old State Saloon. And it wasn't necessarily negative about them. It wasn't anything that I was doing on attack for them. I just said, we're going to celebrate this. And they weren't having it.
And I remember when you first put that out, and I never thought you were bigoted. How is it you're being bigoted?
Yeah, so it was all positive towards heterosexuality. And, the way I've always looked at it is we live in a free country. People can make their decisions. If I was asked, I would always stand with what the Bible says and what God says in morality. But you say it in a loving way, and we're all in the same boat. It's not like one sin is a bigger deal than another. Sin separates us from a holy God, whether it's anger or murder or some sort of sexual sin. It could be a heterosexual sin. There's all kinds of sin, right? So it's just sin is sin. And the only way to be brought, to be in good graces with a holy, perfect Father who loves us is through the sacrifice of his son on the cross. So that's what I'll always say. And we all need that. It's just, we need to recognize it. And I want everybody to be able to recognize that they need that. But yeah, it was at that point I really started actually learning a lot more about the agenda, and so I wasn't originally intending to be negative about the Pride movement any more than anything else. But because of their relentless attacks on me that just became extremely dark. I'm talking like just incessant, disgusting posts, threatening posts, sending me photos of Jesus in pornographic gay relationship activity. Sending me stuff in the snail mail, the same type of thing. It was pretty crazy. And once I started learning how dark it was, and I think that I had just like turned my back on the whole thing my whole life. I started like looking into it, and it gets darker and darker. And I really learned a lot about the agenda and pushing transgenderism on children in the classrooms and how it was supported by many hundreds of millions of dollars the last couple decades to really push that agenda through all of the teachers and classrooms and school districts and everything else, and to get to this point where we're, you know, taking probably the troubled kids and basically having these other school kids come around them, and teachers and psychiatrists and whatever come around them and say, hey, maybe you're not a boy, maybe you're a girl, and you should start taking these drugs. And then as soon as you know, a troubled boy or girl says, oh, maybe I'm not, and then everybody comes around them and says, oh yeah, we're supporting you, and for the first time in their life they feel like maybe they're being loved by somebody, and that's what love is, that they're being supported finally. And so they keep going down that path, and they're deceived by this fake love and deception, ultimately to the point of taking these drugs that are going to change their life forever, and then potentially leading them down a path where they chop off in a surgery very healthy, normal sexual body parts. And that's, it just doesn't get darker than that. So after I learned all those things, I went on more of an attack kind of a mode, trying to get everybody to understand what I had learned and to expose that darkness.
Well, understand, when I edit articles for posting, okay, when I see the word gay, first off, the word gay means cheerful. Okay. That's what the word gay means. So when I have an article that uses the word gay, I replace it with the word homosexual. That's what it is. And whenever I see transgender, I add the adjective deviant transgender. I'm not afraid to say that, because as far as I'm concerned, our Father in heaven, our Father, the Father of all of us, our Father in heaven, made male and made female, and clearly differentiated the two. So anybody who is male who says I'm female, or anybody who is female who says I'm male, I believe that person is deviant. That person is not thinking clearly, because he or she was made in a particular gender. So that's my own view in terms of when I address that kind of stuff. I think it's absolutely wonderful that you have a celebration. There shouldn't be a reason for it, but you have a celebration for being what God made you to be. I think that's absolutely wonderful. So what goes on during Heterosexual Awesomeness Month? What goes on during the month?
So at Old State Saloon, we have some specials. You know, on Mondays, it's basically a free beer for men, for heterosexual males that walk in, and so we call it beers for breeders. And the men
I like
that show up, as long as they're dressed like a heterosexual man should be dressed, they get a free beer. And so, you know, the left really tried to ridicule me over that and make fun of me. And they said, how are you going to know if they're heterosexual or homosexual? And then I just responded online that we would have a judge that would stand there at the bar, and he's really good at judging whether people are hetero or homo. Kind of at it. I'm just, you know, at that point.
What about women? What about women?
It's a little bit of humor.
What about women during that month?
So Tuesdays, their deal's on Tuesdays, and they get happy hour pricing all day long. Wednesdays, we have a discount off the entire bill for heterosexual couples. And then we have some other days and events and live music and different things. And oftentimes I'll go and read letters that I receive in the mail to the crowd that's there. We have a day that we declared National Day of Procreation for married heterosexual couples, so that we can increase the babies, the American babies, that we can increase the birth rate. So it's just a celebration of God's design. You know, I think that 2025, we saw a drastic cut and reduction in the pride events around the country. And I think that's personally, my theory is it's directly related to the USAID money, USAID money. And a lot of these events.
I I need to bookmark you. I'm coming up on a break. Okay, don't go anywhere. Okay, I'll be back with my guest, Mark Fitzpatrick. This is the Global Freedom Report. We'll be right back after these words.
Don't go away. There's a lot more of the Global Freedom Report when we come back.
Are you ready to awaken to the truth? Birthright, Born Free, Live Free is the award-winning documentary shaking audiences across America. This powerful film uncovers how government overreach and the erosion of personal freedoms are threatening our God-given rights. Join us for upcoming screenings taking place around the nation. For locations and showtimes, visit birthrightthemovie.com. Don't miss this opportunity because freedom isn't free and silence is surrender.
Hi, this is Dr. Catherine Albrecht, working to expose the dangers of artificial intelligence. And you're listening to the Global Freedom Report with Brent Johnson.
I can conceive of a national destiny which meets the responsibilities of today and measures up to the possibilities of tomorrow. Behold a republic resting securely upon the mountain of eternal truth. A republic applying in practice and proclaiming to the world the self-evident proposition that all men are created equal, that they're endowed with inalienable rights, that governments are instituted among men to secure these rights, and that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. Behold a republic in which civil and religious liberty stimulate all to earnest endeavor, and in which the law restrains every hand uplifted for a neighbor's injury. A republic in which every citizen is a sovereign, but in which no one cares to wear a crown. Behold a republic standing erect while empires all around are bowed beneath the weight of their own armaments. A republic whose flag is love, while other flags are only fears.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. My guest is Mark Fitzpatrick, owner of the Old State Saloon in Eagle, Idaho. Mark, welcome back. You have not stopped at your recognition and celebration of heterosexuality. Recently, you started promoting an offer of free beer to anyone who helps Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, in their efforts to deport illegal invaders from our country. How did this get started? What do people need to do to qualify for the free beer? And how long do winners receive their free beer? And how has the response been?
Yeah, so we're not shy at Old State Saloon. As you can imagine, we've built up a loyal customer base of good, solid, God-fearing, conservative, constitutional, Christian type of people, a lot of retired police officers and veterans. And so we speak, out on these topics that are contentious all the time. It's pretty normal that we do this online, and we have events, all kinds of events. Like we've got extremely offensive political trivia night coming up where it's just 60 questions that are offensive political questions, but it's a blast. And we usually give away an AR-15 for stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun, and we've got a good group of people. But, when you have a contentious issue, like with immigration, and we need to, as a country, really support law enforcement and ICE and the people that are typically quiet. And that's us, because we got our head down working. We're not trying to make waves. The people that are typically quiet need to speak up, and they need to be vocal, and they need to support law enforcement because this is a mission that's important for our country due to the horrific border just a lack of border, essentially, with the previous administration and letting millions of people in, specifically some of the most dangerous military-age male type of people in the world that have come into our country with major issues and problems.
I'm inspired by your doing this. Have you actually had people who have qualified for the free beer? I'm not asking so much because of the beer, but it means that there are people who've come forward who have indeed helped to get rid of these people who don't belong here.
Well, we have 2 that are in the process right now, and they're just waiting for the deportation to finalize. And so once they do, they'll be qualified. We did retroactively give Ryan Spoon, a local here, credit for it because he basically had done it. I didn't know this, but he had done that the month before. A few months ago, he called in. And somebody had a felony, record and was working on a farm, and they, had a drug record and everything else. So they weren't allowed to be here anymore, illegal, and they were deported because of his phone call. So I gave him credit, which was great. But yeah, we're looking forward to a couple more people getting that credit, and whoever else does it as well. I also jokingly gave credit to a lady and her boyfriend who crashed their car, or the car stopped working and they called the police. The police came and the boyfriend had a warrant out with ICE and was an illegal and was deported. So I kind of jokingly gave her credit for calling the police when they got in a crash.
How do ICE people in your region view what you're doing here?
They're thankful. We actually had a gentleman who's a supervisor with ICE stop by and thank us for our support, our public support. The reason why it took off was because it was just a good timing, and it was contentious issue. And we had Department of Homeland Security retweeted or reposted our post, and it ended up being seen 8 million times, the original post that we made. And so that's where we ended up getting invited on some shows and everything else. And it's because of those shows that led me to, the next thing, which I'm not even sure if you know about, but I put a bounty out for information leading to the arrest of our mayor here in Boise.
No, I didn't hear about this one. No, tell us.
This is the latest. So it's been covered all over local news here. But I was talking on some national news interviews, and I explained that, our local representatives, the mayor of Boise, she's extremely liberal, basically a socialist or a Marxist. And then we have a pretty weak Republican governor who's barely a Republican or a rhino. And I named them on the interviews. And the next day, I got a call from the Idaho Tax Commission where they told me that they were doing a sales and use tax audit on my companies, which, if they don't call, they send things in the mail. So apparently somebody wanted me notified right away, and it's not a coincidence. It's 100% weaponizing the government against me. And so I thought to myself, hey, look, we the people shouldn't be afraid to speak truth and to invite people to support law enforcement and to speak truth about the weak policies of our local representatives that aren't helping. And we shouldn't have to face like retribution or revenge from them for that. And I thought to myself, how can I flip the script on this? And how can we, the people, put these representatives in a position, where they're looking over their shoulder and they're back in that position where they are servants to us and responding to what the will of the people is. And I thought, hey, you know what? I'm pretty sure she's dirty. She's done some things in the past that show that she doesn't care about the will of the people. She's flown the transgender LGBTQ flag in defiance of a law until she figured out a way around it. So I knew that she just doesn't care. She's going to do what she wants. So I just offered publicly a $10,000 reward for anybody who would bring information forward to law enforcement that would lead to her arrest and conviction. And as a result, that kind of went wild a bit locally around here, and I got covered in pretty much all the newspapers and everything have covered it, and online, and the story's been out. I've done a few interviews, and it's now up to $25,000 because I've called around and I've raised more money that's been pledged.
Let me interrupt you. I want you all to know this is how you fight this kind of war. This is exactly the kind of thing. You have to think outside the box and have the character and the willingness to do something like what Mark Fitzpatrick is doing. This is fantastic. This is absolutely wonderful. Will you stay with us for another segment, please?
Oh, absolutely.
Excellent. Good. We got a caller on the line. I got a couple more things I want to ask you about. So stay with us, please. 866-870-KRLA is the toll-free number. If you'd like to join in, 866-870-5752. My guest is Mark Fitzpatrick. He is making some serious noise around the injustice that surrounds us every day. And you should all take a lesson from this man. My applause to you, Mark. We're going to take our break. We'll be right back in a couple of minutes with more of the Global Freedom Report. Stay tuned.
We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to the Global Freedom Report.
A common law pure trust organization is the most powerful asset protection device available. Pure trusts have been around in the USA since 1790, when Patriot Patrick Henry created the first one. Pure trusts establish ironclad protection for real property, vehicles, businesses, and just about anything else. A pure trust creates a wall of privacy over its assets, reduces personal liability, and protects property from attachment. Freedom Bound International has been creating pure trusts for over 35 years, and none of their trusts have ever been successfully attacked. Call today at 888-385-FREE. That number again is 888-385-3733. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us for information and applications for their pure trusts. Freedom Bound International, dedicated to the preservation of personal freedom, privacy rights, and the principles enshrined in the Declaration of Independence.
The Answer. Breaking news.
A more than 3-mile stretch of Topeka Canyon Boulevard is open again after storms forced a temporary closure. The section between Pacific Coast Highway and Grandview Drive had been closed since Tuesday because of anticipated atmospheric river storms. Caltrans crews cleared rockfall and debris flow and allowed traffic to resume. Traffic restrictions related to Palisades Fire and previous storm recovery efforts remain in place. Larry Marino in the Answer Newsroom.
Whether you're preparing for exams, juggling family and career, or just looking to stay sharp as you age, Think Factor is here to help. Created by the same company that makes Relief Factor, Think Factor supports sharper focus, stronger recall, and clearer thinking. It's the natural way to give your brain the daily nutrients it needs for memory, attention, and even vibrant vision. Call 800-4-RELIEF. 800, the number 4-RELIEF, or visit relieffactor.com to learn more. Look, I was a little bit skeptical. I started taking Think Factor. After a few weeks, wow, my memory, my focus, my concentration, better than ever. And Think Factor results get better the longer it's taken. If you want to stay focused during demanding tasks, keep your memory strong, maintain mental energy for whatever's ahead, well, Think Factor is for you. Call 800-4-RELIEF. 800, the number 4-RELIEF, or visit relieffactor.com to learn more and order Think Factor. Your first bottle is just $19.95. Think Factor. Think clearer, perform better daily. Call 800-4-RELIEF or visit relieffactor.com for Think Factor.
As 2025 soon comes to a close, we hope you'll take a moment to help send care packs to our troops in all branches of the military overseas.
They're generally young men and women in far places around the globe.
It's really important to not forget and to help those people who are a little bit forgotten.
Troopathon has care packs ready to go, packed full of all sorts of goodies and treats, but we can't send any without your help. Please call now. Call 833, the number 2 and the word troops, or give online at am870.info. 50, 100, 250, $500. Donate $250, get a $50 food certificate from either Gulliver's or Columbo's while supplies last. Or the Morning Answer Pack for $5,000.
Come in studio, you watch an hour of the program, we'll chat, you get to have breakfast with us afterwards.
Please send a message of support to our members of the military. Help send care packs now. Call 833, the number 2 and the word troops, or am870.info. Thank you.
The Morning Answer with Jennifer Horn.
The offshore drilling project. I know President Trump said that we are going to open it up and that we're going to start drilling off the coast of California. Is that still a go?
Well, California's got enormous resources. We talked about how much they're importing, but California could have an entire domestic industry just like Texas or Oklahoma. California was a leading energy state. It was policies and politicians that said, let's get out of that business.
The Morning Answer with Jennifer Horn. Weekdays starting at 6 a.m. on AM 870 The Answer. AM 870 The Answer is everywhere on the air in SoCal at AM 870 on your AM 870 smartphone app.
The advantage of modern technology.
And now on Amazon and Google Home speakers. Just ask for AM 870 The Answer.
Are you listening?
Read the latest headlines on our website, am870theanswer.com.
This is DC's Guardian, patrolling the streets of our nation's capital, and you are listening to the Global Freedom Report.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. My guest is Mark Fitzpatrick, owner of the Old State Saloon in Eagle, Idaho, who is making some noise and encouraging people to get involved in standing up against Marxism, standing up against deviancy, and standing on behalf of God our Father in heaven. Welcome back, Mark. We have a caller, Brent from Los Angeles. Brent, you are on the air. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
A happy, healthy, and holy New Year, Brent and Mark.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I love and adore you guys, but not in a disgusting, degenerate Democrat kind of way. And I'm so glad you have the courage to speak truth to the satanic sodomy community that hates not only you and me, but even more so themselves. The alcoholism, addiction, depression, anger, and suicide rate of this peculiar pride community is off the charts, and you are saving their lives by standing up their self-destructive lifestyle, and I just want to commend you so much for it.
Thank you, Brent. Mark, you want to comment?
Yeah, I think it matters. I think people not being quiet, there's been a lot of apathy going on the last several decades, and the apathy has caused this ability for Satan to push his agenda forward, and when the church is quiet and we're not standing in the gap and shining light in dark places and stopping evil will keep encroaching. And, I talk a lot about how it's that apathy from the church is why we're in a situation now where in recent history we've had half-naked men dressed as women in libraries reading books to children, and that's something that the media celebrates. It's disgusting. So there needs to be a waking up. I do believe it's happening. The church needs to get going, and especially getting men active to play a pivotal role, a strong role in their communities.
And
thank you, Mark.
Say, we have to be aware that it isn't just the homosexuality of average people. This is a political movement, and the billions and billions of dollars have gone into it to funnel it from the outside, so it isn't an organic movement.
I think there's definitely truth to that. Brent, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I know Mark appreciates hearing from you as well. Mark, I understand that you have received threats from Marxist leftists who have flooded the saloon's social media saying they want to burn down the 100-year-old building where the saloon stands. Reportedly, you've received death threats to you and your family, and that you have openly refused to cave in to such terrorism. And by the way, I applaud you for your courage and your forthrightness. I have faith that God will protect you and your family. But how does all this make you feel? Did you ever expect such reactions to your free beer offer, for example? And what are you doing in response to these threats?
Yeah, the response is to stay diligent and keep moving forward and wake up and fight every day. I know that not everybody can do that. People are in certain jobs and things where you can't be the culture warrior every day. However, there's things that we all can do. So for me, when I get that kind of hate, I just go down to Old State Saloon, and then real people in real life walk in the saloon, and they tell me a lot of people have come from all over the country to take a trip there. So I have both local people that have my back, and I have people around the country that are either there in person, or they're sending mail, or words of encouragement. I'm getting so much prayer. The prayer support is amazing. So I just recommit myself every time the evil, and I know that if I wasn't receiving evil and death threats, it means that I'm not really doing much significant. Christ said, if you follow me and do what I do, they're going to hate you. The world's going to hate you, but take heart, they hated me first. And so it's just, you got to consider it joy when you're hated.
You're in good company. Absolutely. How is it affecting your family?
So I don't, they don't see too much of that because I don't show them. They're not really on deep inside social media channels and things like that. They're not receiving the messages that I receive, the voicemails and all those things. So they don't see a lot of it. They're aware it's there. But we're a strong family. We pray together, we do church together, and we talk a lot with each other, and we're close. 6 children, and they're all pretty much in their teens. My oldest just turned 21. He's one of our lead bartenders at Old State Saloon. So yeah, we're doing very well, and we're very have a strong relationship with the Lord.
Oh, fantastic. You obviously have a flair for developing programs to promote your principles. Do you have plans to implement more programs, say in 2026, events, contests, or what have you, at the Old State Saloon?
Yeah, so just with recent news, you saw Nick Shirley and his activity in Wisconsin with just, going around to these addresses and seeing, hey, this money is supposed to have gone to this daycare, and there's millions of dollars, that have been fraudulently spent otherwise. These are tax dollars. And so that type of behavior has gone on all over the United States with the NGOs and money. And I'm telling you right now, I'm calling it, 2026 is the year that America gets kinetic. And what I mean by that is that people are actually going to start doing something. And it's a result of things like Charlie Kirk's assassination, Nick Shirley, stuff that we're doing at Old State Saloon. So just this last few days, I invited all retired, active and retired law enforcement, fraud investigators, attorneys, anybody who's good at investigation to meet at Old State Saloon on January 6th. And we're going to have our first meeting where we get organized, and we're going to start investigating all these addresses and where all this money's going, and it has been going for the last 8 years. And I'm getting a very, very big response to this. And so when there's a lot of I think retired people who are waking up to the fact that, hey, look, we actually have to do something. We need to stop relying on, the government officials to come bail us out, because all they do is prove over and over again that they're corrupt, and there's a lot of corruption on the inside. And then you have people on the line level that just aren't allowed to do anything with certain investigations because of the corruption above them. And so what are we going to do? What are we, the people, going to do? We're going to do what Nick Shirley did. We're going to go to these addresses. We're going to investigate, and we're going to find, what have you been doing with all this money? And when there's not good answers, people are going to get convicted for fraud and other crimes.
Excellent. There are active movements to restore the constitutional grand jury, which was set up in our system specifically to address exactly what you said, where ordinary people get together in a constitutional grand jury and actually indict people. And this has been stopped by the corrupt courts, but there are those who are actively working on resurrecting the constitutional grand jury. So it's all going to fit together. And I think what you're doing is absolutely tremendous. I'm sure there are a lot of people outside of Idaho who would love to support your efforts. What's the best way for people in or out of Idaho to contact you?
Well, I'm committed to speaking truth, even if it makes people uncomfortable or or gets people upset. And the thing that I value the most is to have the ability to have an audience to hear that, and because people do appreciate it. So I would just say follow Old State Saloon and Old State Mark on the different social medias, and just share it and give some encouraging words on there. We do have people that go online, and you can go in our store on oldstatesaloon.com and you can buy a round of drinks for patriots that go in our bar. You can also buy shirts that we have online. I'm wearing one right now. It says "Make America Straight Again," because things have just gone way too gay in America, and we need to get back to, you know, a more God-honoring view of everything. And so you can buy a shirt to support us. A lot of people are doing that, and that's very, very helpful because we do have a lot of extra expenses. Believe it or not, there's a lot of attacks happening, and some of them I can't even say because I don't want them replicated. And it makes it's definitely, these people do not want my bar, my business to exist, my restaurant, and so it's challenging for sure. But there's just extra money and time that has to be spent to keep things going in a healthy way. So all that support, prayer support, all of it is just tremendously appreciated.
Well, I will take a trip to your website and, you know, put in some funds to help, pay for people who get their free beer or whatever else. I'll find ways to send you some support, because I think what you're doing is not just great for what you're doing, but it is an example for others. You know, a lot of people are watching or listening to this show. This is an example for them, because people are always saying, there's so much corruption. What can I do? What can I do? I'm only one person. Well, Mark Fitzpatrick is only one person. I'm only one person. Look at what we are doing. Remember what Yeshua said. He said, all that I have done, you can do, and so much more. And so he doesn't lie. So it has to be true. So when you're sitting there wondering, what can I do? You can do, and so much more. And Mark, I so appreciate it. I know a lot of people appreciate what you're doing, and please stay in touch. Any developments that go on, you know, get in touch with my producer. Let us know. I'll bring you back on to talk about it, or I'll help promote whatever it is that you're doing. So please do stay in touch. I do very much appreciate it. And God bless you and protect you and yours, so that you can continue doing the work you're doing. I think it's tremendous.
Thank you. Hopefully, next time I talk to you, we'll have good news that we had information turned in, and the mayor of Boise ended up getting arrested because of it. That would be awesome.
Definitely. Please stay in touch. I mean that. I'm not just saying that. Okay. I really mean that. Please do stay in touch with us. We have to take another break. Mark, thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your family, and God bless your patrons.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll be right back with more of the Global Freedom Report. Stay tuned.
Stay with us. More truth and freedom right around the corner.
What if you could live free from government regulation? What if you could learn how to lawfully opt out of taxes, eliminate personal liability, and travel in your vehicle without Big Brother watching over you? The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation, reveals the truth about the American legal system, the U.S. Constitution, and shows how to protect your God-given rights. The American Sovereign provides information critical to all people who value liberty. This 250-page full-size paperback will change the way you live and teach you how to reclaim control over your life. The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation, is available through Freedom Bound International. Call them toll-free at 888-385-3733. That's 888-385-FREE. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us. The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation is the #1 book on sovereignty in the world. Get your copy today.
This is Senator Karen Johnson, reminding you that the eternal price of freedom is vigilance. You are listening to the Global Freedom Report.
This is the new world.
There are no more countries. That's old to think. They're just economic realities. Profit and loss. Efficiency and waste. Think global, not local.
You got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. You got to be your own man, not a puppet on a string. Never compromise what's right and uphold your family name. You got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. The question for the week, and by the way, you can answer this question online. If you go to globalfreedomreport.us, you can actually answer the question while you're online. The global war on drugs, which has been going on for decades at a cost of more than $1 trillion so far, does not seem to have reduced the number of users or availability of drugs. Do you believe drug use and possession should be legal? What do you think about that? And like I said, you can go over to globalfreedomreport.us and answer the question there online. And that answer will end up in my inbox. And if it's really good, okay, I'll post it for everybody to hear and everybody to see. Now, it is time for Propaganda 101. Propaganda is the manipulation of the truth to serve a pre-established political or economic agenda. Thomas Paine, my favorite founding father, wrote that government is a necessary evil. Most people read that as meaning government is necessary. I read that as meaning government is fundamentally evil. Its nature is evil. Statistics are a powerful tool for propagandists. Statistics is the discipline that concerns the collection, organization, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of data. If statistics are calculated using honest methods, they will result in true conclusions that can be used to determine appropriate actions. However, when statistics are manipulated in pursuit of a covert agenda, they result in false and misleading conclusions that are then used to influence the public to promote programs that are harmful to them. When you remember that government is fundamentally evil, it should be apparent that government is not to be trusted to calculate statistics honestly. So it is unwise to trust the conclusions generated by statistical analyses made by government agencies, for they are certain to lead you down a road that is inimical to your interests. The way to defeat propaganda is to always think for yourself and never believe or accept what the evil government tells you. Remember, the nature of government is evil. So you can count on the fact that government is fundamentally evil. If you want to learn more about how your rights have been undermined by government propaganda, I suggest you get a copy of my book, The American Sovereign: How to Live Free from Government Regulation. Check out my website at www.freedomradio.us, freedomradio.us. Everything you find there is designed to help you seek the truth rather than believe the lies that propaganda uses to influence you. And that is this week's edition of Propaganda 101. I want to remind you, you can now download as an MP3 file any of our past shows. Now, This show will be up on the archives generally by Tuesday of next week. So generally it takes a couple of days to get it up. But once it's up, you'll be able to download it as an MP3. You can also simply watch it or listen to it, okay, without downloading it. But now you have the ability to do that. In order to download the files, you go to globalfreedomreport.us. You click on the archives menu. You look for the show that you want to download. Click on the text beneath the thumbnail. The text shows the date of the show, the topic of the show, the guests of the show. Okay. You click on that. It will take you to another page, and there will be a button there that says download MP3 file. Click the button, and you will have what you need. What are you willing to do to protect and preserve your liberty? And what aren't you willing to do to protect and preserve that same liberty? And at the end of the day, would you be proud to tell your friends, your family, your loved ones, your children what you did today? Did you tell the truth? Did you keep your word? Did you honor your agreements? If not, then please correct any trespass on your brother or sister and do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow is too late. And everyone is your brother or sister. Remember, our Father who art in heaven, not my Father, not your Father, our Father. We are part of the same family. Love your brethren as I have loved you. So if you have done wrong to your brother or sister, correct it, and correct it as soon as possible. On next week's show, we will bring you another edition of Freedom Follies featuring singer-songwriter Bob Michael, who will share some of his freedom music with you. Also, George Carlin on freedom, a look at the Declaration, and much more. Plus, we will bring you another invaluable edition of Lessons in Liberty. We missed it this time, but we'll have it back next week, where you learn really useful things they never taught you in public school. And we will embark on our weekly journey into the dirty world of mind control and behavioral manipulation on Propaganda 101. That is all coming up on next week's edition of the Global Freedom Report. Don't miss it. I want to remind you that if you have something you want to rant or rave about, something that just gets you in the craw, that you've got to say what you have to say about it, we will make time on the show. You just need to contact us off the air at 888-385-3733, 888-385-FREE, and say, I have an issue I want to do a rant and rave on, and we'll give you time on the air to talk about it. Additionally, okay, if you would like to participate in one of our point-counterpoint debates, you call us off the air at 888-385-3733, 888-385-FREE, and we'll tell you all about it. Be sure to visit the Freedom Bound International website at freedomradio.us to learn practical ways to live free from government regulation. You can always call us at those numbers, 888-385-3733. That's 888-385-FREE. We can show you how to protect your liberty, your property, and your privacy from government intrusion. So call us today, 888-385-FREE. Tune in next week for another edition of the Global Freedom Report, and I want to wish you all a joyous, happy, and healthy New Year. God bless you all. Okay. I wish you and your family and your friends a very, very happy new year. I'm Brent Johnson, reminding you that freedom is your birthright. It is a gift from God. It's a gift from your Father in heaven. Treat it accordingly. Happy New Year, and God bless you all.
Right to life and liberty. Open your eyes and you will see that America is still the land of the free. Land of the free. Right to life and liberty. Open your eyes and you will see that America is still the land of the free.
This program was sponsored by Freedom Bound International.
AM 870, The Answer. Searching daily for common ground.